If you like math, this is the lesson for you, as we're going to be looking at JavaScript operators. And we have seen a little bit of these in the earlier lessons. So we're going to be focusing on how to use operators, what are available and what operators are available, and the order of arithmetic operators in JavaScript. So if you remember from high school or public school that there is an order when you are adding, subtracting, multiplying, or division. So there's a standard order of operations. So we do adding, subtracting, multiplication, and division. And if we want to change around that order, then we need to wrap it with brackets. And there's more information available about arithmetic operators at the Mozilla Developer Network. So they've got a great example here of 2 plus 3 minus 1. Quick, what's the answer? It's 4. This one gets a little bit more complicated. So we have 4 times 3 divided by 2. So the answer here is that we're doing multiplication and then division. So that's the order of operation. So 4 times 3 is 12, divided by 2 is outputting 6. This one is also a little bit more complicated, and we're doing a modulus. And then we're also multiplying by the exponential. So we are not going to be exploring that in the upcoming lesson, but you're welcome to try that out in your console and play around with it. And although we are looking at modulus, and we explain that in more detail as we go through the lesson. Also, there's addition. So of course, addition, just adding it together. And then there was some of the addition with strings that we saw, which is also known as concatenation, where we do a 5 plus foo ends up as a string value. So JavaScript, again, is trying to convert these as best as possible to either numbers or strings and adding them together. So if we have a Boolean value plus a number, we end up with addition. 2 Booleans, we end up with addition, and so on. There's also subtraction. So when we're subtracting a number, and if we're doing a string minus 3, then we're being returned back not a number. And as we saw in the last lesson, it tries to convert the string to a number. So that's where we get non being returned back. We also have a division. So we've got division by all the different values, and then the values that are being returned, multiplication, of course. So we have 2 times 2 is 4, negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. And then if we multiply a value and we get not a number, but if we multiply infinity, so remember anything by a 0 is going to be returned back as a 0, but we're getting infinity, so it's not a number. So this is one of the things to keep in mind, but very rarely are you ever going to be working with infinity. So don't have to usually worry about that. And of course, we can't multiply a string by 2, doesn't make sense. The one that we did want to look at, and that might be something that you might not be familiar with, is the modular operator. And what this is the remainder essentially. So we get the value, and if we do 12 modulus 5, we end up with 2. So 2 is the remainder that's remaining there after we divide 12 by 5. So we get, it goes in twice, but we get a remainder of 2. So 10 divided by 5 is the 2, so that's where we're getting the remainder. So that one is a little bit confusing because it is the remainder. And then there's some other operators that we're not going to be exploring within the lesson. So there's a lot of great information, once again, Mozilla Developer Network. So we do need to look at order, and that was something that we saw, that we've got multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So that's the order of precedence, of operator precedence, and again, referring to the Mozilla Developer Network. So we get 3 plus 4 times 5. Quick, what's the answer? Okay, 3 plus 4 is 7, times 5 would be 35, but we forgot the order of precedence, the operator precedence. So we're doing multiplication first. So 4 times 5 is 20, and then plus 3, and that's why our answer is 23. So it does take some getting used to, unless you're familiar with it from high school or public school. The order is still the same thing. And if we did want to do 3 plus 4 multiplied by 5, that means that we would have to wrap it in brackets. And I'll show you quickly how that works in the console. So if we take a value and if we take the 3, wrap it in brackets, and then we multiply it by 5, we're going to get 35. Whereas if we have 3 plus 4 times 5, we're going to end up with 23. And you get the picture. So wrapping it in brackets, just like you do with regular math outside of coding, it's going to work the same way. So keep in mind that there is an order. And if you are doing some math and if you're not getting the value that you're expecting, take a look at the order that it's being presented in. There's the modulus, so we did look at this, and I know 12 modulus 5 returning of 2 is a little bit confusing because it also means that 5 goes into 12 twice. So that number is a little bit confusing, but if we do 13 modulus 5, you're going to see that we're returning back a value of 3. A little bit with it, so we've got 13 modulus 5, and you see that the return is 3. So 14 modulus 5, what's the answer? Quick, 4. And 5 modulus 5, and what's the answer going to be? This is maybe a little bit of a trick question, but that's 0. So try out some of the formulas, try out some of the math operators. Remember the order of precedence, challenge yourself, have some fun with it. We're going to jump in the next lesson going into more detail about operators that are available in JavaScript.